You know how a plastic bottle will get all bulky when frozen, or how the freezing water can burst pipes in the winter. That's the pressure of ice expanding, and it can be used to make your cocktails better. Hi friends of cocktails! Today I'll show you another cool and innovative cocktail technique. And when I say cool, I mean we'll literally be freezing a cocktail to add a new flavor to it. The technique is called Sous Pression, and we'll talk about it with its creator, Iain McPherson. But in short, the power expanding ice will help us to leach out flavors from an ingredient and change the cocktails we're making. Think of it as an alternative to sous vide. We'll make two cocktails with this technique. First, Sability, one of many signature cocktails from McPherson's bar, Panda Sons. Then we'll make a Manhattan to see what happens to it for the fun of it. If you're ready to learn something new, let's start. It's cocktail time. I again came across this technique from a punchdrink.com article back in February, titled Forget Sous Vide, Sous Pression is the key to better cocktails. This time I contacted the bartender directly, and he's the nicest guy ever. A real panda, if you will. On Instagram you'll find Iain McPherson under the Cocktail Panda handle. In real life, he's on the move between his lab and a number of his bars. His bio says he's a cocktail and freezing techniques nerd, but he's also been called the Willy Wonka of the drinks world. He offered all the information and help I could ask for, including doing a quick drop-in for this episode. He even sent us a copy of their new cocktail menu at Panda Sons. It's titled Transcend and is dedicated to freezing techniques, with the latest one being the Sous Pression. We might try out some of the other techniques carefully developed by Iain and his team in future episodes. The menu has already been nominated for some awards this year, and if you're ever in Edinburgh, you should really go check out Panda Sons. But let's focus on this latest innovation in the cocktail world. Assuming you have a freezer for your ice, you need just one more thing, something that can withstand the pressure of expanding liquid inside it. I'll be using a small 2-liter keg and my trusted Easy Cream Weeper. On Amazon, you can get a small 64-ounce mini keg roller for as low as $25. I'll leave a link to this in the description. Once we fill this to the brim with the cocktails, we'll place both in the freezer for long enough to freeze all the way through. So make sure you're not using something that's double wall insulated. The key here is to make sure we know exactly the total volume, so that when we add a cocktail, and in this case sliced grapes for the infusion, we really don't leave any space for the cocktail to expand when it freezes. That way all that force will go inwards, and it will have nowhere to go but inside of our fruit, similar to what would happen with a rapid infusion or in a vacuum chamber. Once it's completely frozen, we'll take it out of the freezer, let it thaw out, and all the components will fuse together, creating a smoother and seamless flavor. You can use any fresh fruit or herb to infuse the cocktail, or even infuse only a certain ingredient. Just know that you really need to make as much of it as it will fit in the container. Iain also found out that even if you freeze just the cocktail, it will round out the alcohol and change the acidity, resulting in a smoother finish. We'll test this theory out with our smaller container. But let's hear about Sous Pression and the cocktail we'll make today from the man himself. Iain, welcome to Cocktail Time.
Thanks, Kevin. So Sous Pression is just like how I've been kind of formulating our other freezing techniques. You know, I've looked a long time at freezing and like the freezing force. So when you freeze a liquid, it expands, it generates a lot of PSI. By preventing it from expanding, we can then bring the force kind of inward to kind of help infuse the flavors. And also by freezing it solidly, you separate the flavor molecules, and then the defrosting process works like the sous vide bath, where then all the flavors kind of combine together as one, so you get this really nice seamless silky flavor. The great thing about Sous Pression is you can use your kind of normal commercial freezer, and in some cases, you know, your freezer at home. We combine all the cocktails, and sometimes if the ABV is still too high, you can also pre-dilute, you know, and the great thing about adding your whole cocktail into the keg to do this whole process is, you know, the cocktail is ready to go, so you can make it as a one pour. You know, for me, you know, as much as I've created Sous Pression, there's so much more that can be done. You know, I've only done so many cocktails Sous Pression. Any bartender, bar or home enthusiast can be the first one doing a Sous Pression version, original cocktail or a classic. So I find that very exciting. Thanks for hosting this episode, Kevin, and I hope more people will love this technique as much as I do. And you know, again, if there's any questions, I'm always around as well.
It's really my pleasure to offer this small platform to showcase innovative techniques and influential people that push the mixology community in the right direction. Iain and his team at Panda Sons are doing that with the right attitude. Now it's time to start the process of making the Sability cocktail from their Transcend menu using the Sous Pression technique. This is the first cocktail in the Sous Pression section of the Transcend menu, and with gin, sherry, vermouth and maraschino liqueur, you could say it's a riff on the Martinez. Sable grapes are the fresh ingredient that will give out its flavor under pressure of the ice and the enclosed chamber. For that to happen, we first have to measure the exact volume of our keg. The easiest way is to place it on the scale and fill it up to the top with water. Using grams and milliliters, it's easy to see that my keg has a volume of 2 liters. I'll add 100 milliliters, just to be safe, but also to have a sample that I can compare the end result with. I'll then use this number to calculate the total amount of the ingredients I need for the batch Sability to completely fill the keg. I know the single serve ratio is 45 ml gin, 25 ml vermouth, 20 ml sherry, and 2.5 ml maraschino. Each serve also gets 17.5 grams of sable grapes. To this I'm also adding 20% of dilution, which is 18.5 milliliters. That will make it possible for our cocktail to freeze in a standard freezer. That gives us a total volume of 128 ml. So if we divide the total volume of our keg with the total volume of the cocktail, we get a number we'll multiply each ingredient with. For me, that's 16.4. So I'm starting with 738 ml of Citadel Jardin Diet. Not the same as in the original, but still wonderful, refreshing, citrus-forward gin. Follow that with 410 ml of Lostau Blanco Vermouth. Blanco Vermouths typically sit somewhere between dry and sweet vermouths. Next, another grape-based ingredient, Fino Sherry, 328 ml. Fino, which means thin or delicate in Spanish, is the driest of the traditional varieties of sherry, and the smallest amount, 41 ml of maraschino liqueur. Metric measurements are just easier for these specific quantities, so I hope you don't mind the omission of ounces. And the key ingredients for this recipe, sable grapes, already measured out, 287 grams that are needed for the total volume. Add the grapes into the keg first, then pour in our batch cocktail. But first for dilution, we'll add 20% of the total liquid. Here that represents 303 ml of water. That should give us the total alcohol by volume at 22% or 46 proof, meaning it should freeze at minus 14.4 degrees Celsius or 6 degrees Fahrenheit. With the keg now totally full, close the lid and place it in the freezer. At Panda Sons, 24 hours is enough. I'm going with 48 hours, just to be sure. But as mentioned, we'll also try another batch, this time just with the cocktail, to see how the Sous Pression affects the taste and mouthfeel of a classic. And since we already covered nearly 140 years of its history, it's only fitting to put the Manhattan under a little pressure. Let's start measuring. I'm using the specs for the total amount of a chilled and diluted Manhattan from Dave Arnold's Liquid Intelligence. It shows a total volume of just over 132 ml and an ABV of 24.6%, meaning it should freeze at about minus 15.5 degrees Celsius. That's 50 proof and 4 degrees Fahrenheit, so we should be good with our freezers at home. I also measured the volume of my cream whipper, 720 ml, and I'll divide that with the total volume of a single serve. That lets me know I could fit 5.42 Manhattans into this siphon. Use that number to multiply each of the ingredients, starting with the base spirit. For me, that will be 326 ml of Maker's Mark bourbon. Next, sweet vermouth. Have the amount of bourbon, so 163 ml of Novo di Dante Inferno vermouth. And what would be 2 dashes of Angostura aromatic bitters will here be 9 ml. That's based on Dave Arnold's measurements for 2 dashes. Lastly, to make sure the ABV level isn't too high, dilution. Based on the book, I'm adding 45% of the total volume of the other 3 ingredients, which is 222 ml. Stir to mix, then pour into the cream whipper, this time without adding a cartridge, and place it next to the keg. I leave them in the freezer for the same amount of time. As we wait, you have the perfect opportunity to do all the things YouTube looks at before it shows this video to more people. Subscribe, like, share, you know the drill. And just like that, 48 hours have passed and we can take out our frozen cocktails. So after we assure it's frozen solid through, we'll also have to give this enough time to fully thaw out. Until that point, this is still under a lot of pressure. Don't be surprised if the immense force actually expanded the keg slightly. Test this when you make the second batch, by again measuring the total volume, and expect it to be a bit bigger than the first time. I left this seat for 24 hours, giving it extra time to infuse. That way you can also be completely sure the contents have liquefied again. Then open and strain out the cocktail, keeping the grapes for the garnish. Something you might notice after a few batches is that the color isn't always the same, for reasons unknown. It might be the amount of time you leave it to thaw out and infuse. For Manhattan, you can just pour it straight into a labeled bottle. Since dilution is already added, keep the bottles in the fridge until you're ready to serve these cocktails. And I don't know about you, but after this long process, I can't wait to take a sip of these two. I'll make them side by side. Both will be served in chilled coupe glasses, which are in the freezer. I had to dilute the Manhattan fully to bring the ABV low enough so it could freeze. The Sability was a lower ABV to begin with, so we didn't add so much dilution, meaning we can give it a quick stir with ice now to chill it even further. I added 3 ounces or 90 ml of this Sous Pression cocktail. For Manhattan it's even easier. Just pour the cocktail into a chilled coupe glass to the wash line and move on to the garnishes. Sable grapes from the keg are of course the only sensible garnish for the Sability. They are an amazing boozy snack as well. For Manhattan, I'm of course adding the classic cherry. If you are thinking you can add cherries into the Sous Pression, you're right, it's already on the Transcend menu. But here we want to see what Sous Pression does just to the cocktail, as well as try the masterpiece from Iain McPherson. So let's start with Sability. You get grapes and varietal aromas. It's really wonderfully smooth and balanced, with a pleasant citrus undertone from the gin. Sable grapes also give it a subtle floral aftertaste, which is just lovely, well worth the wait. The Manhattan brings exactly what you'd expect from the aroma to the palate. All the flavors are wonderfully balanced and maybe slightly rounded. But if you want the full benefit of Sous Pression, always add an ingredient that ice can force the most out of. It was a ton of fun for me to try this, and I'm always inspired by incredible bartenders trying to push the boundaries of what's possible. If you know of any other interesting techniques you'd like to see me try, let me know in the comments below. Until next week, cheers, friends of cocktails.